organisms, characteristics and habitats.
I hope all of you are fine and safe at home. I was very happy to see many of you in the Zoom meeting. But still many of few children had not joined. Maybe half the students, 70% of the students had joined. But there were few students who didn't join the meeting. Next time, please see that you join the Zoom meeting when it is called or when it is conducted. Last week, we discussed the terrestrial habitat, the organisms living there and the characteristics of those organisms. Today, we are going to discuss aquatic habitat and the organisms that live in this aquatic habitat. Before we start learning today's topic, let me first recall the things that we learned in the last class. Last class, first we learned what is habitat and adaptation. The place where an organism lives is called as habitat. And what is adaptation? Yes, the characteristics that help an organism to live in a particular habitat is called adaptation. Next, what is terrestrial habitat? If a plant or an animal lives on land, we say that it lives in terrestrial habitat. The different terrestrial habitats that we discussed last week was, what were they? Yes, desert, mountain regions and grasslands. In desert, we discussed the characteristics of camel and cactus. In mountain regions, we discussed the characteristics of snow leopard, yak and also mountain goat. Hope you know the characters. Should I tell the characters? Okay, what is the character of mountain goat? They have strong hooves to climb on the slopey surface. How is the yak able to protect them from severe cold? Yak and snow leopard. Yes, both of them have thick skin. Yak has long hair. Snow leopard has thick fur. So all these characters will help them to withstand the cold weather condition or climatic condition. Next we discuss the characters of deer and lion which lives in the grassland. So these were the things that we learned in the last class. Today we are going to learn the characteristics of animals and plants. Only frog we are going to learn in the aquatic habitats like oceans, ponds and lakes. So now we shall learn the characters of animal and plant that live in the ponds, lakes and oceans. Shall we?
Aquatic habitats. Today we shall learn the different aquatic habitats like oceans, ponds and lakes and the characteristics of animals and plants living in these habitats. What is aquatic habitat? Plants and animals that live in water are said to live in aquatic habitats. So let us learn the characteristics of plants and animals which are living in these habitats. We have already discussed how fish is adapted to live in the sea or in the water. Many other sea animals have streamlined bodies to help them move easily in water. There are some sea animals like squids and octopus which do not have this streamlined shape. They stay deep in the ocean near the seabed and catch any prey that moves towards them. However, when they move in water, they make their body shape streamlined. These animals have gills to help them use oxygen dissolved in water. Understood? So those are living deep in the sea. Next, we can see all aquatic animals do not have gills. There are some sea animals like dolphins and whales that do not have gills. Then how do they breathe? They breathe in air through nostrils or blowholes. These blowholes are located on the upper parts of their heads. This allows them to breathe in air when they swim near the surface of water. They can stay inside the water for a long time without breathing. They come out to the surface from time to time to breathe in air. Next, we shall see the adaptations or characteristics of plants and animals in lakes and ponds. You know, ponds, the water is stagnant. So, animals and plants which we see in stagnant water and flowing water is different. Usually, the plants seen in ponds, roots are not well developed. These roots are actually used only for anchoring or fixing them to the soil. So, they are short in length because already water and minerals are available. So, the use of the roots is only to fix the plant to the soil. For example, lotus, lily, etc. You can see they have a long stem. Okay, so the plants which are seen floating in the water, that is the top part, flower and leaves floating in the water, they have a long stem, that is hollow stem, which makes the plant light, and we can see the surface, the leaves and flowers seen on the surface of the water. Flowers in such plants are found floating on the water surface. All of you would have seen lotus, lily, etc. Some plants are submerged or are seen inside the water. These plants which are seen inside the water usually have ribbon-like leaves. They can bend in the flowing water. In some submerged plants, we can see that the leaves are highly divided. So, when the water flows, the water can flow easily between this torn part or dissected parts. So, the leaves will not be damaged. Hope you have understood this. We can see frogs in the ponds. All of you would have seen. Frogs can stay both inside the water and as well as on land. They have strong back legs that help them in leaping and catching their prey. They have webbed feet which help them to swim in the water. That is why they are able to live both on land and water. Their feet is webbed. Here you can see this lily and lotus, the long stem and broad leaves which are seen floating on the surface of water. When we look around us, we can see different varieties of plants and animals and also many other things. So if we had, in the beginning we had listed the things that we see around us, in the surroundings. Some of these things that we see in our surroundings are living things and some of them are non-living things. How are we able to differentiate living things and non-living things? Because living things have certain characteristics. We are now going to discuss the main characteristics of organisms, which will help us to differentiate them from non-living things. So, shall we discuss the characteristics? It is not a new topic. You are already familiar with all these characteristics. Common characteristics of living organisms. Living organisms need food. Food is indispensable for survival. You know, depending on whether animals are herbivorous, carnivorous or omnivorous, animals need food to survive. Only plants can make their own food by the process of photosynthesis. Food provides energy for sustenance and for growth and development. So, food is very essential. Second, growth. Growth is common to all organisms. That is the main characteristics of all living organisms. That is, they grow. Whether it is a plant or an animal, all shows growth. Third, respiration. You are familiar with this word. It is through respiration that the body is finally able to get energy from the food that we eat. The process of releasing energy is called respiration. And respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen. We breathe in oxygen, and this oxygen is used for releasing energy in most of the living organisms. Except few, all the other organisms require oxygen for respiration. But the process by which they take in, the mode of taking in oxygen is different in different organisms. So, it is very clear that all living organisms, including plants and animals, respire. The exchange of gases in plants takes place through small pores in the leaves called stomata. The amount of oxygen released is much more than the oxygen they use in respiration. That is how they are able to balance the amount of oxygen, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Fourth characteristic is response to stimuli. All living organisms respond to stimuli, that is, changes in the surroundings. Organisms will respond to touch, to any other things, external stimuli, heat, etc. You know, we people, when we touch a hot container, we just pull our hand. That is response to stimuli. You are already familiar with touch me not plant. When we touch the leaves of the touch me not plant, the leaves will close. When we flash light on the animals, the eyes of animals, certain animals may run away. You would have seen Venus flytrap plant. When the insect comes and sits on this plant, it will close, trap. From the word it's very clear, it will trap the insect by closing the two flap-like structures. All these are the examples to show that living organisms respond to stimuli. Stimuli is anything that causes a living thing to react. Fifth characteristic is excretion. Some of the food is left, or the undigested food in the body has to be removed from the body. The removal of waste materials from the body is called excretion. All organisms excrete. Some plants store the waste products in their cells itself, which are not harmful to them and also to animals when we consume it. Certain waste are getting collected in the base of the leaves, and they are removed by shedding them. Some of the waste secretions are useful to us, like certain oils, etc. Sixth characteristic is reproduction. The mode of producing one's own kind is called reproduction. Certain organisms will reproduce by giving birth, while some others lay eggs. You know, plants reproduce through seeds or through vegetative parts like root, stem or leaves. So, new plants are produced either from seeds, or it may be by planting a leaf, stem or root. Seventh characteristics of all living organisms is that they show movement. Body movements are seen, and the ability of the organism to move from one place to another is also seen. The ability of the body to move from one place to another is called as locomotion. Clear? Movement in plants is seen usually in response to external stimuli. Stimuli is anything that causes a living thing to react. We can usually see plants growing towards sunlight. The shoot system will grow towards sunlight. Root will always grow towards gravity. All these are movements. So today we have learned the adaptations or characteristics of squids, octopus, dolphins and whales that live in oceans. That is, octopus and squids, they stay deep inside the ocean and they eat the prey that comes towards them. Dolphins and whales, they do not have gills, they have blowholes, and with the help of the blowholes, they come up to the surface of the water and take in air for breathing. Next, we learned the plants in ponds. Usually, the plants that we see in the stagnant water like ponds have long stem which is hollow and makes it light for them to float. We can see the flowers and leaves of these plants are seen floating on the surface of water. Next, we learned the plants that are seen in the flowing water. Usually the plants in the running water have dissected leaves or needle-like leaves which help them to withstand the force of the water. The leaves will not be damaged. Next we discussed how the frogs are able to live in water and also on land. Frogs have strong back legs that help them in leaping and catching their prey, and they also have webbed feet which help them to swim in the water. Last, we discussed the characteristics of living things. The main characteristics of living things are they need food, they respire, they excrete, they respond to stimuli, they reproduce, they grow and also show movement. Now I shall give you a few questions and we shall also discuss the exercises in the text. So you may take your textbook, take the pencil in your hand and correct the answers which you have already done in the textbook. I had asked you to do the exercises. So we shall check those answers now. Now this is the answer for question number 2 on page 93. How are cactus adapted to survive in a desert? Answer, you have to write point wise. Adaptations of cactus, you can write a side heading and write these points one after the other. First point, the leaves are in the form of spines to reduce transpiration. Second, stem is thick, fleshy and leaf-like. They carry out photosynthesis and also store water. Third point, stem is covered with a thick waxy layer to retain water in the tissues. Group of cells are called tissues. Fourth point, they have long roots that go deep into the soil for absorbing water. So these 4 points you have to write one below the other neatly. This is the answer for question number 2, page number 93. Next question, list the characteristics of animals in the oceans. This answer is given on page 85 and 86. There are 2 points. You have to write one below the other. First point, you will write about squids and octopus. That is the last paragraph on page number 85. Squids and octopus. They do not have streamlined body. That point. Okay, these 2 points are there for squids and octopus. They stay deep in the ocean near the seabed and catch any prey that moves towards them. Till there you have to write. Third point, you will write the last paragraph. There are some sea animals like dolphins and whales. You can underline the name of the animals in the point. Okay, there also you have 2 points. That is, they do not have gills. They breathe in air through the blowholes that are located on the upper part of their heads. Then next point you will write, this allows them to breathe in air when they swim near the surface of the water. Okay, till there you can write for what dolphins and whales. Next question, list the characteristics of plants growing in ponds and plants that are submerged in water. The answer for this question is on page number 86. Just below ponds and lakes, you can see second paragraph. First point, this answer also you have to write point wise, one below the other. First point, some of these plants have their roots fixed in the soil below water. Second point, next side you can see in fourth line. However, in aquatic plants, roots are much reduced in size and their main function is to hold the plant in place. Third point, that the stems of these plants are long, hollow and light. Fourth point, the stems grow up to the surface of water while the leaves and flowers float on the surface of water. Till there you have to write. Next side heading or subheading you can write as aquatic plants which are submerged in water or submerged aquatic plants. One of this you can write as subheading. Below that, point wise you can write. Third line, some of these plants have narrow and thin ribbon-like leaves. These can bend in the flowing water. Second point, in some submerged plants, leaves are often highly divided through which the water can easily flow without damaging them. These 2 points you have to write under submerged plants. Question number 3. List the characteristics that help a frog to live in ponds. The answer is given on page 86. On page 86, third paragraph. Frogs usually live in ponds. In that paragraph, third line. You have to write point wise. First point, they have strong back legs that help them in leaping and catching their prey. Second point, they have webbed feet which help them swim in water. Please children, once again I remind you, please write all the answers point wise. Otherwise you will have to rewrite it, okay? So please consider and write all the answers. Now I'll tell you the answers for the fill up the blanks, which is on page number 93. The presence of specific features which enable a plant or an animal to live in a particular habitat is called adaptation. B. The habitats of the plants and animals that live on land are called terrestrial habitat. The habitats of plants and animals that live in water are called aquatic habitat. D. Soil, water and air are the abiotic factors of a habitat. E. Changes in our surroundings that make us respond to them are called stimuli or stimulus. This photo is not very clear, but this is there in your page, in your textbook. That is why I didn't give much importance for the page. Even clarity, if it is not there, you may read from the textbook and write the answer in the textbook itself. You need not copy it in your notebook. Now, I'll tell you the answers for question number 4, 5, 6 and 7. Question number 4. Which of the things in the following list are non-living? That you will be able to write. Okay, do it on your own. You can do it in the textbook itself. You need not write these answers in your notebook. Question number 5. Give an example of a non-living thing which shows any two characteristics of living things. Hope you understood this question. If you are not sure about the answer, write it at the back of the notebook. And you may ask me in the meeting, or I will tell you the answer in the next class. Question number 6. Which of the non-living things listed below were once part of a living thing? First one, butter. Butter is a part of living thing. It was a part of the living thing. Leather is a part of living thing. Soil? No. Wool? Yes. Electric bulb? No. Cooking oil? Yes. Salt? No. Apple? Yes. Rubber? Yes. So which is not a part of the living thing will be soil, electric bulb and salt. All the others are part of living thing. Question number 7. List the common characteristics of the living things. For this, you will have to write all the characteristics, that is 7 points, one below the other. Living things need food, living things grow, living things respire, living things excrete, living things reproduce, living things respond to stimuli, and living things show movement. Okay, like that 7 points you have to write one below the other. Question number 8. Explain why speed is important for survival in the grasslands for animals that live there. Hint, there are few trees or places for animals to hide in grassland habitat. This answer I had asked you to write in the back of the notebook last week itself. So you may take that page and check your answer. If it is correct, put a tick mark. If it is wrong, please rewrite it. Animals in the grasslands have very few plants to hide. The prey has very little place to hide from the predator, and the predator also has very few plants to hide to catch the prey. For example, the lion has to run fast to catch the prey, that is the deer, and the deer should also have high speed to escape from the predator, that is the lion. So all the animals in the grasslands should have high speed in order to live in that habitat. So dear children, with that we have come to the end of this chapter. Now it is your work to complete all the question answers neatly in your notebook. If your notebook is not neat and tidy, you will have to rewrite it. So complete the notebook and study the question answers. Before writing the answers itself, read the lesson minimum 2 times so that you will be very thorough with the content of the chapter. From next Tuesday onwards, I will be calling you to conduct oral test. Monday you will get the class. From Tuesday onwards, I will be calling you to conduct the test. So please learn and be ready to answer to the questions that I ask you. Is that clear? So if you have any doubts, before that you have to clear it. And you have to complete the notes also. I will be giving the dates in the diary to submit the notebook for correction. So from next Tuesday, from Tuesday or Wednesday, I will ask you to submit the notebook for correction. And please finish studying also. So bye children. I'm winding this today's section. We'll see in the next class. Thank you.